Madonna horror complex we are talking about today. All men, to some degree, have this.
Hey guys, welcome in. Michael Velasco here. Thanks for checking out the channel. I had this video sent to me by a buddy of mine, and I watched it. And he asked me, "Have you ever experienced this?" I had to make some comments about this because there are so many gross generalizations. Literally every other sentence or every sentence she's completely false. Generalizes men, puts down men. Let's just get started. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because she.
All men agree that there are good girls and there are bad girls. But as men mature, this separation levels out. However, today we are talking.
So I don't know what she means by mature, if she just means get older, but I think to a certain extent she's describing women who are marriage material and women who we consider not marriage material. Keep going.
Talking about men who carries this complex throughout their life in this very charged, wounded manner. How do you know it's a problem? You know because it causes you problems and it causes problems and suffering to the women around you. Men with
So she never really described the problem. She just said the word problem and then talked about women suffering. I didn't really understand.
Madonna horror complex divide women strictly into two categories. Madonnas, someone that he marries, this beautiful, pure, noble, righteous woman whose mouth cannot be bedraggled with my dirty sperm, dirty thoughts, my penis, because this mouth will be kissing my children, and into whores, these promiscuous, fallen, dirty women who I can express all my lusty, dirty desires onto, but I will never marry. I despise them even. They are where they belong, and I will punish them for that. I will rip them apart and come all over their dirty faces. So let's.
I will rip them apart and come all over their dirty faces. That is a direct quote. So according to this woman on this channel, I think she's some sort of sex therapist. I'll get more into that and why I think that in a minute here as we look at the rest of this. But saying that all men generally categorize women into only those two different things, someone to marry and then a dirty whore, I feel like maybe a bit of an aggressive take on that, right? Let's see some more.
Let's investigate why these men the way they are and where does this Madonna horror complex takes its roots. Before we begin, please consider to subscribe, like it, share it with anyone who needs it. My name is Katusha and let's begin. A little boy is born and his mother is everything to him. It's his entire universe. It's his goddess, the warmth of her body, the warmth of her milk, the beauty of her eyes, the glossiness of her hair, her scent. I'm feeling all of this and my penis is erect, right? Little boys' penises are erect since they're born.
Okay. Let's just start with the last statement. Little boys' penises are erect since they're born. No, they're actually not. And this is why I said she has to be some sort of sexual therapist, because sexual therapists view everything through the lens of sexuality. So she's trying to sexualize this baby and say that this baby is feeling all of these sexual things towards its mother. So let's just continue on and see what else she has.
It's normal. They have all these emotions and feelings. They don't know, they don't separate them. They don't know what they are. They're just feeling what they are feeling. But very soon, social norms start to invade this perfect relationship with this little boy's mom. So now the things that was normal and allowed aren't anymore. For example, I'm now supposed to wear my underwear. I cannot sleep with my mother, or I cannot sleep naked with my mother. If my penis gets erect looking at her or touching her, it's wrong.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this woman is a mother, because the first point about I have to wear underwear, the baby gets a diaper from the get. Okay. Because when you don't put a diaper on the baby, all you have to do is get peed in the face once by your son, or have your daughter just let fly on your lap. To where you start to keep a diaper on the baby a lot of times. So it has nothing to do with societal norms. I mean, maybe it does a little bit, but a lot of it has to do with just convenience of not having to clean shit up everywhere, because your baby just doesn't know when it's going to do that. It just does that. And then this whole second part about sexualizing the touch and saying like there's times when there's some sort of sensual touch between the son and the mother is just very confusing to me and not correct.
scolded for that. I can't touch her anymore. It's wrong. My
Well, you can't touch her in a sexual way. Yes, that is wrong.
mother doesn't hold my pee-pee while I'm peeing anymore. My mother doesn't wash me in the bathtub anymore.
So I don't think she's a mother because she doesn't understand. Well, first of all, she doesn't understand the male perspective. So she has no idea what she's talking about the erections. That's not something that happens. Babies don't just have an erection all the time. The second thing is that when a child starts to learn how to pee, nobody holds on to it. It's small enough that you just kind of help them point. They actually do like a little ants and like this and pee. And look, let's be honest, even I sometimes cannot aim correctly, and I'm a full grown man. So let's just keep going.
Everybody laughs at me or tells me that's wrong when I say, I'm going to marry you, right? Little boys said that to their mom at a certain age. They say, Mommy, when I'm going to grow up, I'm going to marry you. You are my woman, right? And all he hears are giggles or scolding for that. So all this physicality, all these sexual feelings, desire now are not allowed and they get pushed out. I can still love and admire, play, not in a sexual way with my mom. She's this beautiful, still beautiful goddess that I can emotionally be connected to, but my sexual desire has to go somewhere else. Now, this is
Was was that B-roll supposed to be the mom or the child? What was that? And yes, everything she's describing, I feel like is pretty accurate. Yeah, those types of feelings are not meant for your mother. In fact, there's scientific things that will prevent that from happening. A lot of it has to do with pheromones. So the way that pheromones interact is certain smells, or there's even undetectable things about someone else that either makes you attracted to them or unattracted to them. And so for things like close relatives, siblings, parents, those pheromones retract or try to at least keep you from having those type of feelings toward those people for evolutionary purposes.
normal. Boys and girls, we all are supposed to be socialized. But in addition, add to this mix some sort of trauma. It can be acute or it can be subtle. For example, in this family, the father cheats on the mom, and the little boy knows and sees that.
Okay, so let's just start with her choice of scenarios for trauma. There's a litany of things she could have chose, and if she'd actually read any attachment theory, and she would know that it could be something as simple as not being picked up and held when you're crying, never being consoled like that. It doesn't have to be a husband cheating on a woman, but because I feel like this whole video just kind of bashes men, that's what it starts with. And then the second part of this is that somehow the child sees that. What child sees infidelity? And then number two, along that second point, what child even understands what fidelity is or cares at all about their parents' sexuality? The answer is none of them, or it should be none of them. So again, sexualizing children, trying to make men look bad.
It's known, he knows that the father is cheating. It causes tremendous amount of suffering to his mom. So he projects this hatred onto his father and onto those promiscuous whores that make my mother miserable, that ruin, destroying my family, right? So it gets more charged, that split. Or it can be more subtle than this. If a boy is growing
That was an interesting jump cut, but I don't think she explained really anything about how her theory around Madonna whore complex is somehow related. Other than to say, yeah, breaking up a family is a bad thing. That would cause anyone trauma, but it wouldn't cause men to just simply think of women as whores or Madonnas.
growing up in this family of very rational, not very feeling like sensual people, mathematicians or IT people or engineers, where physical touch is not in the picture.
I almost stopped it too soon because this is such a gross generalization. And again, this is the sexual therapist part of it. Everything has to be sexualized, including your occupation. Because as someone who's in IT myself, as someone who is an engineer, I like personal touch. I crave hugs. I had hugs with my kids. This is complete nonsense, complete generalization. She's going to keep going and it's going to get crazier.
Right? We don't touch, we don't hug, we don't kiss in this family. Leave it for someone else. No, I'm your mom, I'm your dad, so this cold mother who feeds him, who educates him, but who does not like to be touched. Right? It can be more subtle than this. These are just two examples. So now you see how the split occurs.
I don't think we see the split occurring.
This is especially pronounced in certain cultures. I was born and grew up the first 10 years of my life in the Soviet Union. And I'm Slavic, but then on the south of Soviet Union, now partially Russia, or now those republics are separate countries. We call them Caucasian men, but Caucasian is a different word and meaning in English. Those are the men like Eastern, Middle Eastern descent from Armenia, Georgia, Chechen, Dagestan. I studied with them in Moscow, so I remember how they treated us. So,
did you catch that? She remembers how they treated us. So she's taking her anecdotal evidence and she is about to generalize about an entire portion of men in a certain portion of the world.
These men, they only marry women of their own origin. Only. I'm going to marry someone of my own who is brought up with my tradition, who will worship me, who will...
Okay, notice how she says that in a way that makes it seem derogatory. I don't think that's purely a male desire. It is a male preference, and it can be a female preference too, I guess is the point I'm making. But having a preference of marrying somebody that's from a similar culture as you, or who grew up the same way, or shares the same values, I don't think that's a negative thing, and I think a lot of people actually seek that out. But again, it's painted in this sort of light of these terrible men down there wanting a woman to, quote unquote, worship them, and then she goes on.
Cook the right way that I need her to cook, who's this pure, noble, smart woman that I can rely on and trust. But my desires will not be directed at you. My desires will be directed at Natasha, some promiscuous whore, blonde chick that I want to execute my deepest lust onto her and come all over her face and berate her because she deserves that. This
So I can't get over the execute part. But so there's only two types of women, according to this gal. And by the way, she said every man suffers from this. So there's just these dirty, filthy whores, and then there's these women that you marry. I think what she's describing is that there are certainly preferences that men have around what we would call marriage material. But I think there's a larger spectrum than just dirty whores. She's going to go on here and I'll talk more about that.
This kind of behavior is normalized in those cultures, right? Yeah, that's what men do. They're supposed to have a wife that will bury my children, whose mouth will...
I hesitate to make fun of her English because my mom is not from this country either, and English is her second language, but it was funny that she said bury instead of bear the children.
Not be bedraggled by my dirty sperm, and I will have a mistress that I can fulfill my deepest lust with.
So what she's describing is the male preference for sexual variety, a variety in sexual partners. This is something that's built into our DNA. It's actually evolutionary biology, and it's something that has helped to propagate the species. So this is not some sort of complex that men are suffering from. This is just sort of how we're made.
So they adapt to this, but who suffers the most? Women suffer the most.
Well, of course, women suffer the most. This whole video is about suffering.
The wife wants to be desired and wants to be fucked. And then the mistress doesn't want to pick up crumbs. She wants a full life. She wants a husband and she wants children.
Okay, so if you didn't catch that, ladies, if you don't have a husband and children, then you do not have a full life. And let's talk a little bit about the infidelity, right? Most married men who cheat with a woman because most folks are heterosexual, and most of those women are also married. So this whole notion that just these dirty, dirty men seeking out these filthy whores is nonsense. It's just utter nonsense. It's the reason I had to make this video, and it's the reason I'm watching the entire thing with you and commenting on all of it, because literally she's just going to keep going and wait till we get to the end.
So how do we fix this dynamic? What do we do? Gentlemen, I will leave this for my next video, but before I also...
That's the best right there. Let me explain this insane concept to you about this complex that all men have. And how do we fix it? Well, stay tuned to my next video. Please subscribe.
So we'll shoot a video about the complex that women suffer with. You're not alone in this. There's this other complex that's called the night beast complex.
Okay, I love the creative naming of this, but I will actually explain to you what this is really when she's done.
Where the girl marries this reliable, good guy who she knows she can rely on, who can provide for her and for her children. But men, My desires will be directed at some beast outside, whether he is this dirty bum or the sex
Bum.
electrician or the psychopath who drives me nuts but activates all my senses, right? So, how do we live happier lives?
So this is not some weird complex that she's describing. She basically described beta male providers and alpha male. And the type of woman that she's describing is what in the Mano Swamp they will often call it an alpha male widow. She's basically describing women's hypergamy. And you know, we don't need to get into that on this video. We can just finish this out, but it's not some weird complex that she's made up. I don't understand.
All of us can live happier lives if we
How do we
can
be happier?
integrate and put these energies, both visions together, right? I'll leave it for the next video. Okay, thank you so much for staying until the end. Please don't forget to download your testicle massage free guide. Please like.
Okay. This again, men, do not take your advice from women. What is a testicle massage guide? I don't know. Please, somebody please download that and let me know how that goes. But hey, thanks for tuning in. I feel like I just had to make a comment on this. I was texting my buddy back and forth, and he was like, would you just make a video about this already? So if you like this kind of thing, if you like me commenting on this type of stuff, let me know.